Next up, Sue Percy, and Sue's Chief Executive of the Chartered Institution of Highways and Transportation.
And good afternoon to everyone. Always speaking last is quite a dilemma because you think, oh, they've stolen my thunder. But what I'm going to try and do is actually link some of these things together if I can. And it's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek that I'm going to start off with. You know, is there actually a skill shortage? Is it a numbers game only? Is it a capability issue? Or is it a productivity matter? And can we discuss skills in highways in isolation from transportation infrastructure and the wider construction industry? And also, what can we do? We've heard some statistics, particularly from Phil, but I think, you know, it's always good to remember that actually we are seeing unprecedented investment in infrastructure. So what does that translate to? That's 411 billion pounds of money over this Parliament into infrastructure. That's 564 projects. So what's the relevance of that? Well, the relevance of that is that out of that, 70 billion is going to go into transportation, also into highways and wider transportation. So we're going to be in competition with all those other infrastructure projects. So we can't think about this in isolation because actually the skills that we're looking for, so are those who are looking in the energy sector, the housing sector, and so forth. So it is a really big challenge. And as Phil's quite rightly said, we're also a global context. So infrastructure is much, and the investment in infrastructure worldwide is far, far greater than here in the UK. It's also interesting that engineering now is a priority for the Migration Advisory Committee. So that is where you have a list of priorities and actually where we're looking to get people in. And it's also especially in railways. Phil mentioned productivity. In the UK, we are listed 18th by the OECD in 2014. So we're behind Italy, we're behind Australia, France, and the USA. If the UK matched USA productivity, then our GDP would go up by 31%. That's a huge amount. And as can be seen, we're not very good at productivity. So there's some issues in here. So it's not just about the numbers in terms of just sheer numbers. We also know, and Amanda also touched on this, we have a aging workforce. We have a very male workforce, and we have a very, middle-class workforce. That's not representative. And actually, we need to do more about this. We need to widen our talent pool. We also know different skills are needed. So it's not just about numbers, it's about capability. We have issues around big data, Internet of Things, innovation, and so forth. So all of this means that actually, even the skills that we've got at the moment aren't going to equip us to deliver the infrastructure that we need in the future. Also, pleased that Amanda talked about issues around Brexit, because actually we have an over-reliance on migrant labour from South and Central Europe, especially for big projects. And we always seem to manage to find the resources to do big projects. So the Olympics was one, but you look at where the labour came from, a lot of it was outside of the UK. So with Brexit, we will struggle, or potentially struggle, to replicate the model of migrant labour additionality, which we have really relied on until now. Also, if you put in the mix a previous underinvestment in our sector in skills and training, a survivalist business model, very low margins and less investment, you can start to see there's a collection of things that actually means we do need to do a step change if we're going to deal with and address this issue of skills, and it is multi-dimensional. I just wanted to maybe say a couple of things around how we might address the issues. It is both structural and behavioural. And if we don't tackle both in conjunction with each other, then we won't get very far. We need to invest in skills. All of us need to do far more about upskilling both our new and existing workforce. This is about capability, but also about resilience going forward. And I would like to see much more accountability on skills investments for all of us. So actually seeing much more transparency about the percentage of turnover that's actually going on skills investment. That means training, that means qualifications, that means really supporting the workforce. We need to widen access to the sector. We have a target of 30,000 apprenticeships in road and rail by 2020. Does that sound very much? Well, it's a fourfold increase on where we are at the moment. So yes, it's a big number. And we need to link those apprenticeships into professional qualifications so people feel they have a continuum and a real investment in their future. Innovation, we need to have much more innovation in our sector, and we need to innovate. It's the greatest opportunity to improve productivity and offset workforce shortage. And do we do enough of that? Probably not. We also need to increase mobility of the workforce. By that I mean I'd like to see some sort of skills or mobility passport introduced to help increase movement of skills across the sector, across the transport sector. So a much more alignment of movement between sectors and beyond into construction more widely. So plotting our infrastructure projects and the peaks and troughs of when the skills are going to be needed. And I know there's some work going on that, but actually that needs to accelerate far more. And again, others have touched on this. We need to really address the diversity and inclusion agenda. CIHT has done a lot of benchmarking for highways and transportation, and we've produced a lot of materials to support the industry. But actually, it's got to go beyond numbers, because we often talk about diversity, first of all, about gender, and that's only one of the protected characteristics, but then we talk about it in numbers only. And actually, inclusive behaviours and leadership has to go hand in hand with the diversity discussion, because otherwise you will just actually get leakage out of the sector. So we need to seek diversity, we need to create inclusion and drive accountability in our sector. Thank you.